In a dilapidated house at the edge of a small, quiet town, where the shadows danced and the wind whispered secrets, was what was supposed to be my wife and I's paradise. Our once grand home now stood as a decrepit monument to the relentless march of time, haunted by the echoes of a life long forgotten. But the true horror in my heart lay not in the crumbling walls, but in the shattered fragments of memories that tormented my every waking moment. My wife, Maddy, was a prisoner of her own mind, ensnared by the cruel tendrils of Alzheimer's disease. Each day was a descent into madness for me as I watched helplessly while the woman I loved slipped further and further away. The walls of our home bore witness to the horrors that unfolded within, the air thick with the scent of decay and despair. As night fell, I would often find myself wandering the darkened halls, my footsteps echoing like the tolling of a funeral bell. In the shadows I would catch glimpses of my wife, her eyes vacant and hollow, a mere shell of the vibrant woman she once was. But it was not the sight of her vacant stare that chilled me to the bone, nor the sound of her whispered gibberish that sent shivers down my spine. No, it was the sense of dread that hung heavy in the air, the feeling that something sinister lurked just beyond the edge of her perception. But it was not only the physical manifestations of Maddy's illness that tormented me, it was the memories of their life together, now tarnished by the cruel hand of fate. I would find myself lost in reverie, reliving moments of joy and tenderness only to have them ripped away by the harsh reality of the present. The photographs that adorned the walls served as cruel reminders of what once was, our once smiling faces a mockery of the tragedy that had befallen them. Just 11 short days until our anniversary, dear heart. I glanced at the calendar to my left, not even close. We got married in the spring and are currently approaching the middle of fall. Still, it doesn't do much good to correct her. She only gets upset when I do that. I mean, we're all getting older. You never wake up younger than you were the day before, that's for sure. Memories become harder to hold on to. Your brain becomes a colander for memories, and the holes get larger every year, or hell, even every month sometimes the older you get. So I nodded and smiled without a word said. What else was there to do? Maddy had been by my side through everything. The loss of a child, car accidents, surgeries, and the death of our own parents. Daniel Williamson had proven to be the largest challenge of our marriage. Daniel Williamson was the man who almost broke my family apart 20 years ago, almost made it to where I'd be sitting here alone today. Daniel was the man whose affections were too strong for my wife to resist. It began innocently, a fleeting glance exchanged between them here and there, like a spark igniting a wildfire. Soon clandestine meetings in dimly lit cafes became the norm, whispers of forbidden desires echoing around the hollow chambers of our dark bedroom. As hard as it was to admit, I felt a creeping sense of unease, like a cold hand trailing down my spine in the dead of night. Shadows danced in the orbs of her once warm and inviting eyes, casting doubts upon the love we once held so dear. As the affair spiraled out of control, along with my paranoia, I found my soul ensnared in a web of lies and deceit, each thread pulling us deeper into the abyss of despair. My once vibrant spirit withered like a flower deprived of sunlight, replaced by a hollow emptiness that echoed through the halls of our strained, distrusting home. One fateful night, when my suspicions reached a boiling point, I confronted my wife in a whirlwind of confusion and anguish. At first she tried to deny it, but in the dim glow of the moonlight, her confession ultimately hung heavy in the air like a noose around her neck, tightening with each word of utter betrayal. She began to walk toward me, her footsteps echoing in the silence of the night like a mournful dirge. Shadows danced around her, whispering secrets of old infidelity and deceit, their icy fingers tracing the contours of her broken heart. We'd decided to work it out and make it through this, not for our kids, but for us. Danny, promise me the box is okay. When's the last time you checked it? I truly didn't know what to say. You know if Brody finds it, we're dead, right? This is the point where I'd shamefully had enough. Maddy, it's me. I'm Brody, and I certainly don't wish you any harm, dear. A startled look assaulted her eyes, just long enough for me to notice before she shook it away. You're not Brody. The basement. I settled her down, brought her some water, and got her all tucked back into bed. My heart told me I should let it go, that whatever I'd find in the basement had nothing helpful to offer me. Meanwhile, my brain screamed at me to investigate. I told myself that whatever had been put in that basement was placed there long ago and no longer had the power to hurt me. Oh, how wrong I was. The basement stairs were always so steep that even when I had the surest footing, I tried to avoid them. My mind split between taking one step at a time and not slipping the entire flight down. However, I made it. The room reeked of dust and mildew, the smell of utter abandonment. Cobwebs hung from just about every corner, the spiders that inhabited them having left long ago. I scanned the room for anything out of place and found nothing. What I did find, however, was an area of the basement that wasn't as dusty as the rest. Though how she managed to get up and down the stairs was a mystery to me, it was apparent that someone had been in this area more often than the others. My hands fumbled around, searching for any kind of clue at all. Papers flew and forgotten stored items were tossed aside. The last sheet of paper, one of Toran's old school papers, revealed Maddy's old family Bible, which seemed oddly used for how long it had sat down here. I opened the book with trembling hands and my entire world changed. The few mysteries over the decades of our lives instantly clicked into place the moment the cover was opened, especially my alarming health problems of late. The pages of the book had been cut, revealing a hollow space inside, only it wasn't empty. There, safely nestled in its hiding spot, was a half-empty bottle of arsenic. I got out my phone and Googled the effects of arsenicosis as I tried to mentally absorb the situation. Unfortunately, I was shaking so badly that it took me more tries than I'd like to admit. Skin lesions? One of the most visible signs of chronic arsenic poisoning is the development of skin lesions. These may appear as discoloured patches, rough, thickened or wart-like growths, and can progress to more severe conditions like hyperkeratosis, thickening of the skin, and eventually skin cancer. I stared down at my arms, wincing at the eggplant-shaded bruises and calloused-edged sores that appeared every now and then. Cancer chronic exposure to arsenic has been strongly linked to an increased risk of several types of cancer, including skin, lung, bladder, liver, and kidney cancer. Cancer? That was the last thing on the list I hadn't been tested for. I'd refused any scans or x-rays the entire year before, thinking if they didn't find anything, it meant I wouldn't have anything. Cardiovascular effects. Arsenic exposure has been associated with cardiovascular diseases such as hypertension, atherosclerosis, and ischemic heart disease. My blood pressure had always been high, so that couldn't really be used as a confirmed symptom. Reproductive and developmental effects. Fortunately for me, it was a tad too late for any of that to be a concern. I'd already had my kids and I was about as developed as I was ever going to get. Gastrointestinal effects. Chronic ingestion of arsenic-contaminated food or water can cause gastrointestinal symptoms such as abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and gastritis. Long-term exposure may increase the risk of gastrointestinal cancers, particularly of the liver, colon, and stomach. Again, hadn't been tested, and I've always had a somewhat sensitive stomach. Immune system, dysfunction. Arsenic exposure can suppress immune function, making individuals more susceptible to infections and impairing the body's ability to mount an effective immune response against pathogens. Well, see, this one was hard to tell. When you got to be our age, your immune system was pretty much shit anyway. I put away my phone, resigned to the fact that it hadn't proved helpful. Still, although every symptom hadn't been confirmed, here it was in my very own hands. Sure, I could have thrown it away, and I damn near did, but she got strong on the days that the devil had her mind, and there wasn't any reasoning with her either. If she came down here and found this gone, only God and Lucifer know what havoc she would wreak. In her mind, I wouldn't be someone she loved. I'd be reduced back to what I was during her affair, an obstacle in her way, something she needed to be rid of. As far as punishment goes, it seemed to have taken care of itself in a twisted way. What was I supposed to do? Call the police on my 78-year-old wife? With how the healthcare system is, there was just as much a chance of me being carted off as her. I figured emptying the bottle down the sink drain, washing it vigorously, and replacing it with water was just about the best option I had. So here I'm left, sitting alone in my basement with a bottle of arsenic water in one hand and nothing but heaps of regret in the other. I'd always been thankful for her good days when she had her memory back, when I had my wife back. However, this was something else entirely. Now it seemed like my life counted on those good days, the ones that seemed fewer and farther between as of late. Some days I wish I could join her in her make-believe world, win her back like I did back then. I'm older now, Daniel is long dead, and I'm tired, so damn tired. Maddy's bad days were getting more consistent by the week. It seemed the light of her spirit that shined through the cracks of dementia had all but been sealed over, shut out from me forever. Her bad days were the ones where her mind took her back to the time when she was unfaithful. She wasn't mine during these times, she was his. It hurt and terrified me all at once. My sense of shame, betrayal, and heartache fought with my sense of self-preservation to live. I told myself I wanted to live, but struggled to figure out what for. But unfortunately for me, those were also the days she remembered to poison me.